Hey guys, it's Tarzan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another comic book strip review. Today we're going to be looking at Tarzan, The New Adventures, part 2 basically of this book. So, like I mentioned in the previous review for this is a collection of strips from a digital publication. So, Edgar Burroughs Incorporated has their own website, and one of the things that they offer on their website is a subscription for comic book strips, right? This is kind of their main title, I guess. It's written by Roy Thomas. The first arc, which is what I reviewed last time, had art by Thomas Greenberg. And starting with this arc that I'm reviewing today, Benito Gallego takes over as the artist for this story. And I like Benito Gallego's artwork, but I do think that they did a bit of a a bad thing with the way that they organized who gets what artwork when, right? So I'll talk about that a bit later. So yeah, Roy Thomas, Benito Gallego. The publisher is Dark Horse. And to be honest with you, I think that there will be more of these, or I hope that there will be more of these, but I have not seen any movement on that front. And the fact that the last comic book that was related to Tarzan that was licensed by Edgar Rice Incorporated, Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, was published through Dynamite, means that this probably is the only and last time that we're going to get one of these from Dark Horse, right? So that's upsetting, actually, because I don't want to pay a subscription service for a whole library of comics when I'm only interested in one. And I actually really like reading these the way that they're portrayed here, right? So that's kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. The demographic for this, I would say, is adult, just because I don't think children care about Tarzan or are even aware of who he is or would want to read comic book strips of him, right? So I think that this is adult because of the subject matter, of course, but because just by process of elimination, the only people that would be willing to read this are adults, right? If that makes sense. And I think that that happens to be the case with most things that I talk about on my channel. So there you go. Genre-wise, this is a jungle adventure. And I guess there's a bit of a, like a Predator vibe to this. I don't know what to call it. I don't know if there's like a specific genre, but like the idea that a man is being hunted by a monster, that isn't a monster movie, like whatever that is, this also has, right? So it has like a Predator or an Alien kind of vibe where there's like, you know, a character that goes hunting for something, but then the thing is actually hunting them and they fight, right? So that kind of idea. This does not have an adaptation, sorry, but this would be cool to see as an animated TV show, right? However, I think that if Tarzan ever was animated as anything, or there was a new process done to make this work, I would prefer it to be the original novels, kind of updated a little bit for modern times, not necessarily like completely changed, just upgraded a little bit to make sense for the modern era. And I don't necessarily think that they would ever have to jump into this, right? So yeah, in terms of our ratings for this arc, I would give it like a 4 out of 5. I was pretty happy with it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but it just didn't have the same level of awesomeness that the previous one, right? So it's less than last time. And let me show you where it starts and where it ends. So this is where the previous arc ends, right? So Tarzan leaves in the jungle on some Tantours, some elephants, and this is where the next arc starts. And you can clearly see the massive difference in artwork there. Neither one is better than the other. They're both quite good, but the difference between the two is quite jarring. And it goes, well, all the way to the end, and then it finishes, and then you have this like little thing about the creators, right? So you get Roy Thomas, Thomas Greenberg, and Benito Gallego, and then a list of other things that Dark Horse has published. So there you go. That's basically it for that. So in terms of premise, Tarzan is heading home after dropping off Jane and Paul at the airport of sorts, I guess, And when he's heading home, on his way home, a pair of men from a specific tribe that it's not really important, but it's a tribe here, or a village, I guess, is asked to come to him and ask him, hey, can you come with us and can you help us? We know that you're Tarzan. We need your help, right? And so they tell him the leopard men are back, which is a problem because they're like cannibal characters, and Tarzan had fought them at one point in Tarzan and the Leopard Men, which is a novel I have not read, but I know about to an extent. And Tarzan's like, no, that's not possible. I killed them all. And they're like, no, they came back. And this is a problem because there's something stalking the woods and causing harm to people. And so Tarzan has to go fight these leopard men. And it turns out that there's more than just leopard men out there. And that's kind of where the cool stuff of this story happens, right? So, yeah, in terms of plotline here, it opens up with Tarzan dropping off Jane at the airport. It turns out that Paul doesn't actually want to go with her at this point because the only reason he was going with her the first time was because he was driving the plane, right? He was flying the plane. In this case, he has decided to stay and actually head to France instead. But before he gets around to doing that, he's chatting with Tarzan, and he's going to go back home eventually, right? Suddenly, and Nakima, the little monkey, shows up and forces Tarzan out of there. He's like, come on, we gotta go. You know, I'm bored of being here, right? And elsewhere, we get to see that this female doctor, I think her name is Harper, is mutilating some dead animals. She's like doing stuff with them, kind of very Frankenstein-esque, right? And she's trying to create a synthetic monster, a synthetic beast of some sort. And then we come back to Tarzan, who is trying to head home after Nkima gets him kicked out of the restaurant. And some men approach him. They're like, hey man, we know you're Tarzan. Can you come help us? We know that the leopard men are back. Sorry, I've been having Conan on the brain. And so I think Conan, and then I think serpent men. And that confuses me here with Tarzan and the leopard men, right? So they tell him this. He heads with them to their village, and then the village decides that because Tarzan is wearing a cheetah loincloth, he is also a leopard man. I don't know why they would think this if he's white, and then I'm pretty sure all the leopard men were black. So this just seems like a stupid way to force conflict out of these characters, but it is what it is. You believe it in the moment, it's fine. It's not that big a deal. And so he's put in jail. Eventually, some Tantors show up and they break him out of jail, and he has to kind of do a late night escape from this village. So yeah, he escapes with the Tantors, and then he's being stalked by a beast. And it turns out that the doctor lady, Dr. Harper, has managed to combine the body of a leopard and the body of a gorilla to make a gorilla leopard, and she has given it 2 hearts because that's how many hearts are needed to make sure that this whole system is pumping blood through the body. And she has created this horrifying, insatiable beast. And it goes out and it goes to hunt Tarzan. And Tarzan manages to hurt it, but it doesn't die. It's because he doesn't know that it has 2 hearts. So he only pierced one of them, but the other one is still there. And so it manages to escape and leave and gets healed by Dr. Harper. At this point, she turns against the leopard men that were helping her, and she kills him, puts the heart of this leopard man inside the gorilla leopard, and then lets it loose again. The thing is that at this point, the beast is gone, and it's really in his bloodlust, and it tries to attack her. Thankfully, Tarzan shows up at the right moment to help her, and they have a bit of a battle. He manages to save her. He manages to hurt one of the hearts of the gorilla leopard again, and then in the last moment when it seems like they're all gonna die, Dr. Harper manages to also stab this gorilla leopard in the right place at the right time in order to, beat it and make sure that they both survive. At this point, after seeing the difficulties that her beast had and the things that it was doing, and the fact that she created a monster, she feels remorse, and in a classic kind of Tarzan and old school 1920s fashion, she immediately repents and becomes a better person. She hugs Tarzan. It's really cool. and she goes on to do something else, right? And Tarzan continues on to his home, and that's basically what this story is. There's a lot more to it than what I just said. I gave you just kind of the highlights here. There's quite a lot of like interpersonal tension and intrigue, and you know, callbacks to stuff and everything. It's really fun to read. I actually really liked it. I think it's fun, but I did have a problem or two, right? So I'll talk about those here soon. So it ends with Tarzan saying that he's going to Paul Uldan, which I know is important. It means something, but I don't remember what it's from. I think it's from Inside the Earth. It's like from one of the Earth's Core novels, but I can't remember. I looked it up a long time ago, but I just can't remember what it is now. So the next story is supposed to be at Paul Uldan, but I don't know where that is. So that's it for that. In terms of characters, we have Tarzan, we have Wombi, who is one of the black characters that shows up to tell Tarzan to go to his village. Then we have Gato Makemba, who is the Leopard Man, and it turns out that he has a grudge against Tarzan, and that's why he's helping Dr. Harper in order to create this thing to kill Tarzan, because Tarzan killed his father in the novel, right? So that's kind of interesting. This human element here is cool. I like it. I think that the tension is clear and interesting, but I don't actually remember if Makemba and Tarzan actually fight. And I think it would have been nice if they did, instead of just having like his heart through the gorilla leopard fight Tarzan, right? I think it would have been a bit more interesting if they had a fight and then Tarzan killed him, and because he killed him, Dr. Harper uses his heart to put it in the beast, right? I think that would have been a bit more dynamic and made it a bigger story, but I think that they were just trying to kind of get through this story relatively quick so they could move on to something bigger, right? At least that's what it feels like. And of course we have Dr. Harper. She's related to the guy from the Monster Island novel that Edgar S. Burroughs wrote. I can't remember what it's called. It's the one where he creates monster men, and then one of them turns out to be like beautiful, but he has like a problem where he's like psychotic or something. It's that one, right? And I have it. I have not read it, but I have been thinking about reading it for Halloween for the last couple of years, and I just never get around to it. But she's related to the doctor character from that story, and she also references Dr. Monroe, like from the Island of Dr. Monroe, quite a few times, because that's kind of a classic thing with these old school stories, right? So yeah, in terms of world building here, we have leopard men, monsters, the monster men from Edgar Rice Burroughs' story, the Island of Dr. Monroe references, and there's some element of Frankenstein to this as well. And of course, we get to see that the leopard men tribe or cult or whatever you want to call it still exists to an extent, but not to the way that it was probably in the Leopard Men novel. And at this point, you kind of think, maybe I should read all of the novels before I read these Tarzan adventures, but the thing is that it's not really necessary. You get enough context and enough understanding of this, of the stories that are being referenced without having to have read them, right? It's the same kind of idea as like Conan. I doubt most Conan people that read the comic books have read the original Robert E. Howard stories, but they still have an understanding of the Conan mythos, right? It's fine. It's not that big a deal. It's not necessary to read the novels. It's just kind of, it adds a little bit to your understanding of the characters if you do, right? And I'm sure Roy Thomas did read the novels before he wrote the stories, so it's pretty cool stuff overall, right? In terms of artwork and fan service, which is what I call like titillating content, the artwork is great. I really like Benito Gallego's style, and I think that his colors are great. I love how vivid and interesting and odd they are, right? There's a lot of greens and oranges and purples that work really nicely to highlight, a lot of things about this artwork. However, I think that as is often the case, and I often complain about this, the fact that they chose a very specific, very powerful type of artwork with Thomas Greenberg initially, and then when he decided to quit, they brought in Benito Gallego instead, who has a very different art style, a still kind of like old school style, right? Because Thomas Greenberg's style is also pretty reminiscent of like Frazetta and stuff, right? And Benito Gallego is more like a Buscema guy, right? He looks a little bit more like Sal or John Buscema. even though they do have that kind of old school classic pulpy type style to them, their styles are very distinct and different from each other, right? And so it makes you as a reader have this very jarring kind of like understandingly difficult time knowing that these are the same story, that this is the same run, right? It makes it difficult to get back into the groove of things if you're like flipping through these amazing pages from Thomas Greenberg that have this very distinct kind of scratchy but very light style, and then you turn into these very like line heavy, like very powerful, and also kind of less realistic maybe, or maybe less fine art looking style that Benito Gallego has, right? So there's a bit of a jar there that makes it really difficult to to really appreciate the whole book properly in the right way, right? Because it makes you kind of compare and contrast, and I don't think that that's a very good thing, right? So it makes it quite difficult to enjoy the whole reading experience of the whole book. You can enjoy each arc separately, which is how I did it, but it's just hard to like get through that initial change, right? Eventually you kind of get used to it, and then Benito Gallego stays on this book forever basically afterwards, so it's not like it's that difficult to overcome, and broadly speaking you'll get more used to Benito Gallego's artwork over Thomas Greenberg's. But I hope you guys understand what I'm saying here. It's like, it's just annoying that that happens, right? So it is what it is, but at the same time it's like, I understand why it happened. You know, Roy Thomas talks about why Thomas Greenberg decided to leave and Benito Gallegos took on the title, right? It's not a problem in terms of like, I dislike any of the choices being made. I just don't think that it was the right way to do it, right? If that makes sense. So yeah, so that's it. There's no titillating content. The female character is very well dressed because she's a doctor and she doesn't have any opportunities to show off, you know, in that sort of way. And also because this is not a character that Tarzan knows, right? So there is no history that you can use as a basis for some of that more titillating content, right? Like this is not a Law of Opar, and this is not Jane. So it's just a random person that Tarzan basically meets as he saves her, and this character is not really important. There's no value in forcing her into a titillating situation, and so they just choose not to. And I think that was pretty well done. There could have been some weird thing where she was like, it's so hot in the jungle, let me take off my shirt while I work on this, you know, gorilla, right? Like, I'm sure someone, some other writer would have done that, but Roy Thomas decides not to because it's not necessary. So, cool bit of restraint there from him, if that makes sense. Ratings wise, 4 out of 5. It's fun, but like I said, there is a certain level of like dissatisfaction that I feel with the jarring nature of like one artist turning into a very different artist. And also I think that this story is a lot less dynamic and interesting, and there's a lot less time spent developing it compared to the first story. And so it's a little bit less enjoyable than the first story, but broadly speaking, it's still good. It's still like a nice way to pass time, so I liked it, right? So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Tarzan, The New Adventures, arc number 2. The Revenge of the Leopard Man is what I'm calling it, although, you know, I don't know what the actual name of it is. And that is my overall review for Tarzan, The New Adventures, book 1 of possibly 1, because I don't think that they're going to make more of these, right? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys very much for watching. This is still going to go up on my Hobbies of a Man channel for now, but I might eventually switch over my Tarzan content to my Sword and Sorcery Book Club channel that I just launched. So if you guys are interested in Conan or Robert E. Howard, please go check out that channel. I'll leave it linked down below. And thank you guys once again for watching. I hope you guys appreciated the video and enjoyed it, and see you guys in the next one. So goodbye.